Dad, we need 25 grand. Like, right now. That's how it started. No. Hi. Dad. How's your morning? Or, thanks again for helping us move last month. Just straight to the demand. No warm-up. No small talk. It was 8 in the morning, Tuesday, and I was standing in the kitchen watching the coffee maker gurgle like it was still half asleep. I'm David Grant, 54 years old, and after raising 2 kids, I honestly thought I'd heard every possible emergency call. Turns out I hadn't. Lena stood in front of me, wearing yoga pants and that designer jacket I'm sure cost more than my entire grocery budget for the month. Her husband, Ryan, hovered behind her, eyes glued to his phone like the whole thing was just background noise. Classic Ryan. $25,000? I repeated, setting my mug down a little too hard. What for? Lena hesitated, then said, Ryan made some bad investments. Crypto stuff. The way she said it, you'd think she was asking me to water their plants while they were on vacation. The credit cards are maxed, and we're behind on the mortgage, she added, her tone casual, like that somehow made it less serious. I glanced at Ryan, still scrolling. 30 years old and acting like his mess was just another item someone else would take care of. Maybe Ryan should explain this himself, I said. He finally looked up, cleared his throat. It's complicated, David. Market volatility and all that. But we'll pay you back. Market volatility. Right. That's what we're calling gambling with the house payment now. Here's the thing nobody tells you about having adult kids. Sometimes you realize you did too good a job shielding them from the real world. Lena never once had to worry about money growing up. She never saw me stressing over late Davids or working weekends to keep the lights on. To her, Dad was just the guy who made problems disappear with a few phone calls or a check. We already asked Mom, Lena added quickly, like that would help her case. She thinks you should help us. Of course she does. Elaine's heart is about as soft and wide as the Grand Canyon. She'd hand over our retirement fund if the kids said, please, the right way. Your mom doesn't know about our 401k situation, I said quietly. That got Lena's attention. What about it? She asked. I'd been dreading this conversation for months. My company was restructuring, offering early retirement packages to guys like me. 28 years on the job, decent pay, not essential to their new direction. Take the buyout or risk getting laid off later with nothing. I'm probably getting bought out, I told her. We need every penny for retirement. Lena's expression shifted, not to sympathy, but to frustration. But this is an emergency, Dad. An emergency. Like Ryan's crypto disaster was on par with a medical David or a car wreck. You know what I call an emergency? I said, feeling my patience slip. When you called me at 2 in the morning because your car broke down sophomore year. When Ryan lost his job and you needed rent money. When you two decided you wanted that big wedding you couldn't afford. Ah, the wedding. $15,000 we gave them so Lena could have her perfect day. Open bar, fancy venue, photographer charging more than I make in a month. They swore it was a one-time thing. That was 3 years ago. Then Ryan lost his marketing job. Just until I get back on my feet, he said. We covered their rent for 4 months, 6, maybe 8 grand. Got back maybe 2. Then came the car repairs. The credit card emergencies. The time Lena's laptop died right before a big presentation. Always something, always urgent, always our problem to fix. Dad, that's not fair, Lena said. Fair? I asked. I've given you two about $35,000 over the last 5 years. You think I wasn't keeping track? I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app, where I'd logged every dime. Wedding gift, $15,000. Rent help, $6,800. Car repairs, $3,300. Credit cards, $4,601. Laptop, $1,700. Miscellaneous, emergencies, $3,700. The only sound in the kitchen was the coffee maker finishing its cycle. Ryan was back to scrolling his phone. Lena just stared at me like I'd started speaking a different language. We always paid you back, she said finally. You've paid back maybe 14 grand. And only after I had to ask 3 times each time. This wasn't how I wanted it to go. I love my daughter. I love her enough to have bailed her out more times than I can count. But somewhere along the line, helping her turned into enabling her, and by extension, enabling him. Look, I said, softening my tone, you're adults. You've got jobs. You need to figure this out yourselves. Lena gave me that look, The same one she had at 16 when I told her she couldn't take the car to some party. Pure disbelief that I was actually saying no. I can't believe you're being this selfish, she said. Selfish? For wanting to keep the money I'd worked 28 years to save. For not wanting to gut my retirement to cover my son-in-law's crypto gambling habit. Lena, I said, I'm 54. If I'm lucky, I've got maybe 13 more working years left. This money has to last your mom and me the next 30. You can always work longer, she shot back. And there it was, the thing that really got me. Not just that she wanted the money, but that she believed I owed it to her. That my retirement, my plans, my future, all of it came second to whatever crisis she and Ryan had created this week. I thought about my dad. He worked until he was 68 because he never learned to say no to family. Died 2 years into retirement. Never got to enjoy a single day of the life he'd earned. Get out, I said quietly. Dad, get out of my house. Both of you. They left, but not before Lena told me I was being unreasonable and that she was going to talk to Mom. Ryan didn't say a word. Just followed her out like a lost puppy, still scrolling his phone, probably checking how much more crypto he'd lost. I called in sick to work that day. First time in 3 years. Instead, I sat in the garage, surrounded by the tools I'd collected over decades. The workbench I built when Lena was 10, teaching her to measure twice, cut once. The old lawnmower I used to show my son Jake that hard work matters more than talent. The fishing gear that hadn't seen water in years because everyone was always too busy. Everything in that garage represented time. Time working overtime to afford better tools. Time teaching my kids lessons they apparently never learned. Time I'd never get back. Elaine came home around 6, ready for battle. She barely got her purse down before saying, Lena called me crying. Figured as much, I said. David, they're in real trouble. Yeah, I said quietly. Trouble they created. She's our daughter, Elaine said. She's a 28-year-old woman who's never learned how to live within her means. Because we never let her face the consequences, I shot back. Elaine dropped her purse on the counter so hard it rattled the dishes. Since when did you become so cold? Since I figured out we're not helping her anymore, I said. We're just making things worse. We went at it for 2 solid hours. She said I'd turned heartless. I told her she was being naive. Same fight we'd had every time one of the kids needed money. Only this time, I wasn't budging. Remember when Jake needed help with his security deposit? I said, what did we tell him then? That was different, she said. He was just starting out. It was $800. Yeah, and we told him to save for it. He picked up extra shifts for 2 months and made it happen. You know why? Because Jake's always been the responsible one. He's responsible because we made him be, I said. We never gave Lena that chance. Elaine went quiet. She stood there staring out the kitchen window at the old wooden swing set I built for Lena when she was 7. Spent an entire weekend on that thing. Finally, she said, what if we just help them this one last time? You said that about the wedding. I reminded her. You said that when Ryan lost his job. You said that when their car broke down. This is bigger, she said softly. They'll always be bigger, Elaine, I replied. Next time it'll be a down payment on a house they can't afford. Then it'll be daycare for kids they're not ready to have. Where does it stop? She didn't have an answer. Just stood there twisting her wedding ring. What if it was Jake? She finally asked. Jake's 25, just started his career, and actually knows how to handle money, I said. He wouldn't ask. But if he did, then I'd tell him the same thing, figure it out. Truth is, Jake had asked for help once. His transmission blew last year, $3,500 repair. He called me, asked if I knew any decent mechanics who might cut him a deal. Never once asked for cash. I offered to lend it to him anyway, and he said he'd rather work overtime and save for a reliable used car instead. That's the difference between my kids. One learned that problems are meant to be solved. The other learned that Dad will always fix them. Elaine slept in the guest room that night, and the night after. By Thursday, she was throwing out lines like, "You've changed," and "You used to care about family." That evening, Jake called. "Dad, what's going on?" Lena's blowing up Facebook about family loyalty and being abandoned. I rubbed my temples. "Your sister wants me to pay off Ryan's gambling debt." A pause. "Then how much?" 25,001, I said. "Jesus. Dad, you know you don't owe them that, right?" Hearing him say it out loud was like a small relief. "Your mother thinks I should," he cut in. "Mom's got a blind spot when it comes to Lena. Always has." He wasn't wrong. When Lena crashed her car in high school while texting, Elaine's first concern wasn't that she could have killed someone. It was making sure Lena didn't lose her phone privileges. When Lena dropped out halfway through junior year to find herself, Elaine backed her. When she moved in with Ryan after 3 months of dating, Elaine said, "Love's all that matters." And me? I went along with it all. Keeping the peace was easier than fighting. But easy isn't always right. Friday morning, Lena showed up again, this time with backup. My brother Paul and his wife, Diane. "We're having an intervention," Diane announced, like I was some kind of addict. Apparently, they'd all been talking. Decided I was in the middle of a midlife crisis. That I was being unreasonable, selfish, maybe even needed therapy. "This isn't like you, David," Paul said. "You've always been the guy who helps family." They had the whole plan figured out for me. Take out a home equity loan if cash was tight. Call my financial advisor. See about liquidating investments. Cash in part of my 401k and pay the penalty if needed. Whatever it took to help Lena and Ryan. Not one of them asked what I wanted. Not one. "You know what's funny?" I said, looking around my own living room, now filled with people who thought they knew better. Not one of you has asked Ryan to get a second job, or Lena to sell her car, or maybe move into a smaller place. The only solution anyone seems to have is that I hand over my money. "Because you have it," Lena snapped. "I have it because I earned it," I said. "Because I didn't blow it on crypto, restaurants, and designer crap." "So what? We should live like peasants," she fired back. "No," I said. "You should live like adults." Paul leaned forward. "David, look at the big picture. It's just money." Just money. Easy for him to say. Paul's a dentist, makes twice what I do. Had his kids' college funds filled before they hit middle school. Never had to choose between fixing the furnace and taking a vacation. Never had to work weekends just to cover Christmas. "It's not just money, Paul," I said. "It's my future. Elaine's future. We're 54 years old. This isn't monopoly money." Diane jumped in then. "But David, family comes first. Your parents would have done anything for you." Oh, there it was, the button she knew to press. My dad. The man worked double shifts at the steel mill for 35 years. Gave my brother and me everything we needed and half of what we wanted. When Paul needed money for dental school, Dad took out a second mortgage. When I needed help with a house down payment, he cashed in retirement bonds to cover it. He finally retired at 70. 2 years later, he was gone. Heart attack while mowing the lawn at that tiny house he'd moved to after selling the family home to help Paul start his practice. "You're right," I said quietly. "Dad would have given us anything. And you know what it got him? He died broke and exhausted. Never got to enjoy a single day of the retirement he worked his whole life for." The room went silent. "I'm not making that same mistake," I said. That's when I knew I was done. Done with the guilt trips, the family lectures, the idea that my savings were everyone else's safety net. I went upstairs, packed a bag, and came back down. They were still arguing about how unreasonable I was being. "I'm going camping for a few days," I announced. "David, you can't just run away from this," Elaine said. "Watch me." I walked out, climbed into my truck, and headed north. But I didn't go camping. I drove straight to the bank, transferred most of our money into an account only I could access, then kept driving. 12 straight hours until I hit a little town called Grayling, up in northern Michigan, maybe 2,000 people total. Found a place called the Pine Rest Inn. Paid cash for a week. The woman at the front desk looked to be about my age, kind eyes, didn't ask questions when I requested a room far from the road. Once inside, I sat down on the edge of the bed and finally exhaled. The place was simple, 2 double beds, a small table, an old TV that picked up maybe 6 channels. The carpet had probably been there since the 80s and the wallpaper had seen better decades. But it was quiet. And for the first time in a long time, it was mine. No one demanding anything. No one making me feel guilty for wanting to keep what I'd earned. Monday morning, I called my boss. Told him I was cashing in all my unused vacation, 3 weeks worth. Then I called Elaine. "Where are you?" She demanded. "Away." "This is ridiculous, David." I told her. "Come home, and let's handle this like grown-ups." But I guess adults don't force others to clean up their messes. She's our daughter, and I'm still your husband. Or at least that's supposed to mean something. Apparently, though, keeping Lena happy mattered more. I hung up the phone, powered it off, and just sat there in silence. That first day, I didn't do a damn thing. I planted myself on the couch and watched the kind of daytime TV that makes your brain melt. Game shows where people cheer like maniacs over winning a new blender, and talk shows where strangers spill their family secrets for applause. Compared to my own family's chaos, it all seemed absurd. By the second day, I needed air, so I wandered around town. Grayling's a quiet little place built around the Osable River, the kind of spot folks visit to fish, canoe, or hide from whatever's chasing them back in the real world. I grabbed breakfast at a diner called Spike's Keg-O Nails. The coffee could wake the dead, and the waitress called me Han, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You're not from around here, are you?" she asked, topping off my cup. "No, ma'am," I said, "just passing through." "Well," she smiled, "you picked a good place to do it. It's quiet. Helps you think." She was right. For the first time in what felt like years, my head was clear. No Lena demanding. No Elaine guilt-tripping. No one telling me what I should do with my money. On the third day, I bought a fishing license and some cheap gear. It had been about a decade since I'd cast a line, but muscle memory came back fast. Standing in the cold river at sunrise, watching mist curl off the water, I remembered what peace actually felt like. Day 4, I finally called Jake. "Dad, where are you?" "Mom's losing her mind," he said. "I'm fine, son. How are you holding up?" There was a long pause before he said, "Honestly, I think Lena and Ryan are idiots. They make more money than I do, but they're always broke. It's not your job to bail them out." My youngest, the one who never asked for handouts, never acted entitled, he got it. "Jake," I asked quietly, "do you think I'm a bad father?" "What?" "No, Dad. You're the best one I know. That's why this whole thing's so messed up. Lena's just mad because you finally stopped enabling her." We talked for over an hour, about his job at the engineering firm, about his girlfriend, Chloe, who was almost done with nursing school. We talked about everything except family drama. It was the first normal conversation I'd had in weeks. Then before we hung up, Jake said, "You know what's crazy? Lena posted on Facebook that you abandoned the family. Left out the part where she wanted your money. Made it sound like you just snapped." "What did you say?" I asked. "I just commented that maybe people should ask why before they judge." Got a bunch of angry emojis from her friends, but I don't care. After that call, I sat by the river until the sky went dark. I kept thinking about how different my kids turned out. Jake learned early that choices have consequences. When he got a speeding ticket at 16, I made him pay every penny, fine, insurance, all of it. When he wanted a better car, he saved up through summer jobs. When he picked college, he researched scholarships and chose a school he could afford. Lena? She learned something else, that Dad would always swoop in to fix things. I taught her that without meaning to, by never letting her fall. On the 5th day, I drove up to Traverse City, bought flowers for Elaine, and headed home. Lena's car was in the driveway when I pulled up. Inside, she and Elaine sat at the kitchen table, both red-eyed from crying. "Dad," Lena jumped up and hugged me. "Thank God you're okay. We thought something happened to you." "I'm fine," I said. "Where were you?" Elaine asked, studying me like I was someone she didn't know. "Thinking," I told her. "David, you scared us half to death," she said. "You can't just vanish like that." "Sure I can," I said. "I'm 54. I can go wherever I want." Lena started crying again. "Daddy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause all this trouble. We figured out another way to get the money." "Good for you," I said. "We borrowed from Ryan's parents." "Of course you did," I muttered. "Always another cash machine." "But we also talked to a financial counselor," Lena added quickly. "She helped us make a budget. We're selling my car, and Ryan's picking up a second job." I looked at her closely. She looked older somehow, like the week had worn her down. "That's good, Lena," I said. "That's what adults do." Then I took a breath and said quietly, "I want you both to leave now. Dad, please. Can't we just forget all this?" "No," I said, "and neither should you. This was a lesson. I hope you learned from it." She looked confused. "What lesson?" "That I'm not your personal bank. That your problems belong to you. Being family doesn't mean I owe you whatever you want, whenever you want it." "But I said I was sorry," she pleaded. "Sorry doesn't fix a pattern, Lena. This is the 4th time in 5 years you've come asking for money. Every time you promised it was the last. Every time you called it an emergency only I could solve." They left eventually. Before walking out, Lena hugged me hard and whispered, "I really am sorry, Daddy. I never thought about what this was doing to you." Elaine and I went to counseling after that. Dr. Patel, a sharp woman about our age who'd clearly seen this kind of family mess before. It took 6 months to find our footing again. Things changed, some for the better. Elaine finally understood why I'd hit my breaking point. I enabled her too, she admitted during one session. I thought being a good mom meant never saying no. Lena didn't call me for 3 months. When she finally did, it was to tell me she and Ryan had paid off 2 credit cards and saved $2,000 for emergencies. We're actually sticking to the budget, she said, almost shocked. Ryan even got promoted at his second job. We might be able to pay his parents back by Christmas. That's great, I told her. And Dad, thank you. For what? For finally saying no. I needed that. She was right. She did need it. And truthfully, I needed to say it. These days, Lena and Ryan are doing just fine. Smaller apartment, cheaper car, real budget. And they actually follow it. Ryan got another promotion and dropped the second job. Lena started freelancing on the side. They figured life out, just like I knew they could. I'm still working, but now it's by choice. The early retirement deal's still waiting, but I don't feel desperate to take it. Elaine and I are planning a cruise for our 30th anniversary, paid for with our own money. Jake just got engaged to Chloe. When I offered to help with the wedding, he smiled and said, "Thanks, Dad, but we've got it covered. We've been saving." And that's when it hit me. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your kids is not save them. Sometimes you have to step away so they can stand on their own. Sometimes being a good father means being the bad guy. I'm okay with that now.